Hello, and welcome to the Restart Michigan webinar, Cyber Risks of Keeping Workforce Remote. I'm Lori Ostrom, the Senior Director of Engagement with the Detroit Regional Chamber, and we thank you for joining us today. The Chamber launched this series of webinars to help businesses across the state prepare to restart operations, return to work, or in this case, work remotely. I would like to thank our guest speaker from UHY for volunteering his time to share his expertise. Before we get started, I wanted to make you aware that all participants are on mute, but you do have the option to submit questions directly to the speaker through the GoToWebinar control panel. I will now turn the webinar over to David Barton from UHY.
Thank you, Lori. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all today, and hopefully I can convey some information that'll be useful to you in terms of helping you manage some of the new risks that have come out as a result of the pandemic that has struck the nation. A little bit of house cleaning, as Lori mentioned, you can ask questions through the question box, and it's on the right-hand side under the control panel. And Lori's going to be manning that. And so if you have a question, just type it out, and Lori can interrupt me as I'm going through this presentation. And then I'll try to answer your questions as best I can. A little bit about myself, David Barton. I'm a managing director with UHY's Technology Risk and Compliance Group. And basically, we're all about technology risk and how to improve cybersecurity processes and controls. We have a variety of cyber-related services, along with quite a few attestation services, SOC 1 reports, SOC 2 reports, PCI, HIPAA, a lot of different ones. So that's a little bit about myself. Norman Comstock is also our managing director in the practice. He had a conflict this morning, so he won't be able to join. But as I said, Lori's going to man the question box. So we are going to be spending about 45 minutes. I can present you with a participation certificate, but CPE is going to depend on whatever the state you're in, what their NASBA requirements are in terms of whether they'll accept that. And I think Lori said the digital copy of the slides would be sent out, or you can request that. And I don't know if we'll have a survey or not. This particular slide, I think, is one that I missed in updating. So with that, I'm going to get started with the content. So the current situation in the nation and in regards to cybersecurity, obviously the world has changed as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it did change rather rapidly. We have the largest remote workforce in history. Lots of countries around the world went into a stay-at-home situation, meaning everyone has had to work from home. And thank goodness we've got the internet. If this had happened 20, 30 years ago, this would not have had the same capability to keep things going. Business and governments have closed offices that are normally full of people working. And many of these suddenly remote workers have never worked from home before. I was sharing with Lori a little earlier that I've been working from home for a couple of years now as a result of a move and some personal things in my life, and traveling to various locations where UHY has offices, but working from home, probably 1/3 of the time, and have found it to be beneficial from the standpoint of being able to focus. You don't get those drive-bys at your office when people come by and just ask quick questions. But now I'm having to deal with things like instant message and Skype and whatever else we've got that we're using. But all in all, I would say anxiety is high, and there is a sense of urgency that's common, particularly with the results of the last couple of weeks. The country seems to be turned on its head from things that are not related to the pandemic, but tensions are high all over the country, and particularly in urban areas where there's a lot of protests and rioting going on. So with all of this change, what can possibly go wrong from the standpoint of your cybersecurity and moving to a fully remote workforce. So prior to COVID, some of these statistics I want to share have been this high for a long time. First of all, about 92% of all malware is delivered by email. And malware would be viruses, ransomware, keyloggers, any number of things that are destructive. 95% of attacks on business result from a successful spear phishing attack. Spear phishing meaning you are targeting an individual within an organization, not just shotgunning an email to a general population within a company. 97% of people globally are unable to identify a sophisticated phishing email. 97%. Turn that on its head, that means only 3% of people globally are really able to identify a sophisticated phishing email. That's frightening when you think about the risk of that and what can happen as a result of a phishing email. So the next one, I want you to think about this. The average cost of a phishing attack to a mid-sized company is, I want you to put that number in your head. What is your answer? What do you think this statistic is going to be? Got a number? $1.6 million for a mid-sized company. And when I say mid-sized company, I'm talking $100 million or less, right? So that's a significant amount of cash to be taken out of your revenues just because of a phishing attack. And there's a variety of things that can happen as a result of a phishing attack. So that's kind of the pre-COVID situation that we had. So what are the risks now that we have the COVID-19 and now that we have this suddenly remote workforce? What we can expect and have seen are increased phishing attacks across the board in a variety of new ways. So first and foremost, you've got the phishing attacks that are mimicking government agencies, school systems, you name it. We've seen a lot of different new methods for the bad guys to try to utilize phishing in order to get information or get credentials or other things. So this first one is a CDC health alert, supposedly from the CDC. It even looks like it's going to go to the cdc.gov website, but in fact, it doesn't. It takes you to a malware-laden site where lots of bad things can happen. So another example here is one that supposedly came from the World Health Organization. So when you look at this, it looks rather official. It's got the logo there and latest news on the coronavirus. However, if you look closely, you can see some clues that this may not be a legitimate email from the World Health Organization. First and foremost, it is an ebook that is a zip file, and zip files are notorious for carrying malware and other kinds of things that can infect your computer with bad things. Secondly, if you look at the email or the alert closely, you'll see there's several different fonts in here. And if this were an official release from the World Health Organization, I would think that they would have a little more care in terms of preparing it, making it look good, etc. And lastly, the language. If you read that last sentence down there that I've got highlighted, you're receiving this email because your life count as everyone's lives count. Doesn't sound like English is the first language for the person that put this together. And that's a kind of a dead giveaway that this is probably not a legitimate email from the World Health Organization. This is sort of a template for someone to use in sending an email that's supposed to be from their internal HR group. And obviously, this hot link in here can be used in a lot of different ways to take you somewhere where you don't think you're going to be going, and end up with a variety of malware on your machine or on your device. So we see that some of these attachments at some of these websites can download malware. And as I was thinking about it this morning, it occurred to me that some of these attachments are a lot like the virus itself, right? We have instigated social distancing and work from home in order to try to isolate ourselves and self-quarantine. Well, what we need to do with our devices and our networks and so on is also to isolate and protect from being infected by malware, viruses, etc. The problem is the guys who are trying to phish you are trying to get you to invite them in. So come on into my house and infect me with the virus that you're carrying. So it just struck me today that there's a lot of similarities in how we deal with biological viruses and how we should be dealing with cyber viruses. So here's an example of why this is such a problem. This is an actual website in Eastern Europe somewhere that is advertising, here's a new exploit that you can download and put your own payload in here and use it to instigate a phishing attack. You can go out there and get this kit basically to allow you to go phishing and put your own payload in there, whatever that payload may be, whether it's a keylogger or ransomware or whatever. This is a map that's supposedly from the Johns Hopkins website. Johns Hopkins does have a legitimate website that looks like this, that tracks the cases. But when you look closely, this one is hosted at coronavirusmap.com, not at Johns Hopkins. So when you're out there looking for information or trying to obtain information about the latest on what's going on with the virus, you have to be very, very careful where you get that information and how. Recently, I guess it was only a week or so after everything broke and everyone went into shutdown mode, that somebody released this app for Android devices that was supposedly a coronavirus tracker to allow you to track outbreaks in your own city, on your own street, in your own state. Only problem is it wasn't really a coronavirus tracker. It was basically ransomware for your Android smartphone. When you downloaded the app and executed it the first time, this is the screen that came up. You've got 48 hours to pay $100 in Bitcoin or everything on your phone will be erased. This is the start of a very bad day for a lot of people who downloaded this app thinking they were getting a virus tracker when in fact it was just another ransomware. So with all of this going on, all of your employees being under duress, being asked to quickly adapt to all new methods of working and communicating and new tools, new processes, etc., they're going to be under a lot of stress and have been under a lot of stress. They're going to be more susceptible to phishing because of all that uncertainty. So another risk, calls from unfamiliar support staff. As we have dealt with the increased need for support staff and as a result of everybody going remote, there's a new opportunity for bad guys to utilize that as a way to get in. Something like this. Hi, I'm Jason from Remote Assistance. We need to install some additional security software on your laptop since you're now working from home. Can I take control of your computer for a few minutes? Jason's going to ask if they say yes for the IP address of the computer, and he may have nothing to do with remote assistance. He may have nothing to do with your organization. He's just somebody trying to get into a computer. And as a result of saying yes and allowing him to take control of your computer, Jason can do pretty much whatever he wants, including installing a keylogger. If you don't know what a keylogger is a small piece of software that hides within the computer. It doesn't announce itself, and it logs every single keystroke that a person makes on that machine. And that includes the web addresses for online banking and other accounts, the IDs for those accounts, and the passwords for those accounts, because it's tracking every single keystroke. It then downloads or sends that information to the person that installed the keylogger on the machine in the first place, and now they have a complete history of everything that you type on your device. Not fun. In fact, in October of 2018, the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security issued joint warnings about remote desktop protocol as a tool for hackers to get into machines across the country. And obviously that continues to this day. And as I said, they're using the fact that now everyone is remote as a reason to try and call folks to convince them that they're going to get into their computer and install some new software or whatever. So here we've got Cindy, and Cindy is now working remotely for the first time in her career. She works in an office. She has a desktop computer at the office that belongs to the company that has really good security on it because of the type of job that she's in. But now she has to work from home. She's never had a corporate laptop or a device that she could take home. So now all she has is her MacBook. It's her personal MacBook. So in order to do the work that she needs to, she reaches out to IT in support and says, hey, I need to use my MacBook to work from home. Well, corporate IT says, no, I'm sorry, we can't hook you up to work from home because we only support Windows devices. That's all that our infrastructure is equipped to handle. So what is Cindy going to do? She's going to say, all right, I'll just use a workaround. I'll use my MacBook and I'll use my Yahoo account for my work email. I'll just forward it. And I'll use my Google Drive to store and maintain all of the files that I need to work with locally on my MacBook. And then when this is all over, I'll just transfer everything that I need to over to the corporate network and the corporate servers. So does anybody see a problem with this? This is a huge risk. We don't know what's on her computer. We don't know if it's safe. We don't know if it's secure. We certainly don't know if using a publicly available tool like Google Drive is a good idea for the type of work that she may be doing. Now we've got IT resources. We already had a shortage of IT resources even before all this started. But now IT staff is going to be scrambling to deal with the demands of a suddenly remote workforce. And they're installing new applications, they're installing new infrastructure, they're installing new network channels, and so on and so on and so on. And they're not necessarily going to be available to deal with helping people like Cindy set up her MacBook to work with the corporate network. So that also is a risk because people are going to be left to their own devices to find ways to make their new tools and new processes work. So who supports your IT in your organization? Is it a FTE, a full-time equivalent, full-time employee? Or perhaps you've got a managed service provider, an outside firm that handles all of the servers and the backups and formatting new devices and new computers for your workforce. Well, in my experience, what I'm finding is that many companies rely on this guy. Your father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate. There is some kind of a relationship there that somebody who's been loyal to the company, to the founder of the company, to the executive that's in charge of the IT, even though IT is not one of the central focuses of the business. It may be manufacturing, it may be healthcare, and IT is just a means to an end. But nonetheless, you've got this person who is a generalist, and he's a great guy, and he does all the things he's supposed to do in terms of keeping the applications up to date and online, and keeping the servers patched, and keeping everybody's computer doing what they're supposed to do. But the fact of the matter is, he's not an expert. He's probably not a certified information system security professional, CISSP, or any other designation around cybersecurity. And he tries, but he's just not the expert that you may need to deal with cybersecurity. And it's sort of like, if you suspect that you have a serious illness like COVID, would you go to the general practitioner, or would you go to an expert? If you suspected that you had some form of cancer or heart disease, would you go to your general practitioner, or would you go to a specialist? So this is an issue, and there's nothing wrong with the job that your IT resources are doing. It's just that they're not focused on security. And in today's marketplace, with the risks that we have today, expertise is what you need. What are some of the other risks? Suddenly we're using home networks and home Wi-Fi to do business. And those networks may be unencrypted, may be unsecured completely, or undersecured, i.e. insecure. So how do we know? How do the executive teams know whether all the machines that are on the network are adequately protected? Also, things like firmware in cable modems and routers. Somebody may have had the same internet provider for years and years and years, and they got that first little box years ago, and nobody's had to touch it. The provider's not going to say, hey, we need to replace your device because it's out of date and hasn't been patched. That's up to the user. So if those patches haven't been made, there may be vulnerabilities in those devices that hackers know about and can utilize to get inside your network. Insecure home computers and laptops. Because why? Again, lack of patching. The operating system may not have been updated in years. The applications are generations behind where they should be in order to be up to snuff from a security standpoint. We've all seen this screen, right? Updating Windows. Well, because we're dealing with home computers, we don't know what the status of those computers are and how well they have been patched. Malware-laden home computers, right? So one of the things that is an issue is you may have devices on your network that are completely eaten up with viruses. The family computer is not well protected in most cases. Now, your work machine that you've brought home and you're now using on that network may be fine, but you're sharing a network with this other computer that has all sorts of bad things on it that you don't really know about, or maybe not even care. And last, what happens if that family computer has a keylogger on it, and for whatever reason you use it one day to log into your business email, and now they know your ID and your password for your business email. So you see the issues here. We're dealing with unknowns, a lot of unknowns in terms of what's going on the network and with our applications. So what is on your home network? Think about this as you're sitting there today. Do you think you have a good inventory of what's on your home network? Take a second and count in your head how many devices are on your home network or have been on your home network recently. Is it less than 5? Between 5 and 10? More than 10? What's the number, would you guess? I'm going to tell you it's significantly higher than what you think. The screenshot on the right is an application called Circle that I use to help secure my home network, because I've got 2 teenage stepsons at home and want to keep them safe and the rest of the family safe from bad things that can happen using the internet. There's a total of 34 devices that are on or have been on my network. Every time somebody comes into the house and says, "Oh, what's your Wi-Fi code?" That's another vector for something bad to happen, because you don't know what they're bringing in to your network. Sort of like COVID again. The reason we went to social distancing and stay-at-home orders was so that we would reduce the infection. So you see what we're talking about here. We've got computers and laptops and printers and tablets and smartphones and gaming consoles, Alexa, Google Home, security systems, smart thermostats, smart TVs, and all your friends' devices that have come into your house and stayed for a while. Speaking of insecure networks and Wi-Fi, insecure Internet of Things. I mentioned security systems, I mentioned thermostats. There's also baby monitors, Ring doorbells, and smart TVs. A smart TV connects to the internet. We now have smart refrigerators that connect to the internet. Each and every one of those devices has an IP address. And if someone can find out what that IP address is and knows of a known vulnerability within that device, there's a chance they can get into your home network and begin monitoring. Privacy and confidentiality breaches. You may not have a shredder at the home office where you've got the big bin at the office where you dump all of the confidential materials to be shredded later. Also, the capability to offload IP, EPHI, PII to unauthorized local storage like a USB drive. A lot of companies have gone to a policy where they set up the laptops in such a way that you are not allowed to download things to a USB drive or thumb drive or anything. Those channels have been blocked in order to prevent the leakage of personal information, healthcare information, intellectual property, whatever. Communication in a crisis like we have been dealing with is extremely important, and it needs to be open and honest and frequent. So I'm going to go through some communication channels that will help in terms of making sure you reduce your risks. First off, a communication plan. Ensure all associates have access to home phone and cell phone for all critical associates in the organization. I'm talking phone numbers, right? Because we've been living in this world where we have the directories of all of the extensions in the office, but now we're dealing with person-to-person communication. So we need home numbers and we need cell phone numbers that may not be on that directory. Provide guidelines and protocol for using the various communication channels like email, instant message, virtual meetings. On the topic of virtual meetings, that's another security weakness. We've seen examples from Zoom, other channels. All of these new apps are coming out as a result of what's going on, and apps that may not have the level of security that we need or that we expect. And that may be a channel for other compromises that we're not paying attention to. Again, personal phone numbers, when to use SMS text, is that okay? And office phone forwarding. Make sure everyone has their office phone forwarded to their cell phone or their home phone so that you can communicate with them. Develop and distribute a remote worker policy manual. Make sure that everybody knows what the protocols are and who's in charge and who they should call if they have issues and so on and so forth. And update or create your incident response plan. An incident response plan typically has to do with any variety of things, but most of them have to do with security type incidents. One of the things that I wanted to mention here is right now, because of the situation we're facing on top of the COVID, with all the protests and the riots and potential violence, does your incident response plan include, if we happen to be near, if our office is near a hot zone for protests or riots or whatever, what is the plan in that case? Are we going to go remote? who's going to make the call, when will that decision be made, how is that information going to be communicated. All of those things should be part of your incident response plan. So now we have yet another scenario that should be covered in that plan. So what can you do? Well, here are some policies that you should consider implementing. All access to corporate data and systems must be via a VPN, a virtual private network, which is an encrypted end-to-end channel that will help protect the data going to and fro, even if you're working from home. All associates utilize publicly available VPN services if you don't have a VPN channel already established through the company. There's lots of them out there: Proton VPN, TunnelBear, IPVanish, etc. And all VPN access should require two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication, most of us were familiar with that. It's where you have an ID and a password, and then once you put in the password, the particular site or application will send you a code to your cell phone. So your cell phone becomes the thing that you have. It's something you have and something you know. You know your ID and your password, and you have your cell phone, which then supplies the second factor of authentication. Other policies to consider. Because of the amount of work that's going on from home, because of all of the virtual conference calls that are going on, all of that stuff is high in bandwidth usage. Using cameras and voice over the internet creates a lot of bandwidth. And if you've got people in the other room trying to watch Netflix or Amazon, or using the same bandwidth to play Fortnite, it's going to create an issue, and you're going to have glitches, and you won't have a good clear channel. So you may want to have a family meeting and say, look, from the hours of whatever, 8 to 5, nobody's watching Netflix or playing Fortnite. Allow associates to expend bandwidth upgrades while working from home. A lot of people never worked from home before, so they had very limited access in terms of bandwidth. They had the lowest cost internet provider that they could get, just because they just go on Facebook every once in a while. They don't do a lot of streaming, they don't do gaming, that sort of thing. Temporarily utilize a forced homepage that provides news and updates on new processes, tools, etc. for remote work. That's also a great way to communicate around the incident response plan. For example, hey, overnight we had riots. The doors to the building are not secure. They've been broken out. There was a fire that was set in the lobby. The building's not uninhabitable, so everybody has to work from home. Those are the things that we have to deal with in today's world. And last but certainly not least, training. Training is super important. And why do I say that? Because it only takes one person clicking on one phishing email to infect your entire network, create a ransomware event that will shut down your entire company. And I'm not exaggerating there. I'm going to preach a little bit here, okay? Technology is great, but technology is not a end-all be-all. There's three components to every system. There's people, there's process, and there's technology. I can tell you from experience that over the last 5 or 6 years, most, if not all of the major breaches we've seen advertised were not technology failures. They were people and process failures. Ransomware is a people issue because most antivirus is not equipped to deal with ransomware. It's continually morphing. It's new every week. It's a new signature. And when you click on a link in an email, regardless of whether it's a phishing email or not, what you're basically saying is to your network and your firewall, I want to create a communication channel with this website. And if it's got bad stuff on it, or if it's got an attachment that you download, it's going to allow it. So your technology is not going to be able to help you in that case. The only thing that's going to help you is your people's ability to recognize and deal with those phishing emails appropriately. And how do they get better? By practicing. The only way to get better is to practice. If you rely on just once a year training and awareness to say, yeah, don't click on stuff you shouldn't. Well, how do you know what you shouldn't? They're very sophisticated these days. They're very, very good at impersonating CEOs' emails. They're very, very good at luring people in by offering discounts for various things. So, recent study showed that cyber awareness training reduced click-throughs between 26 and 99% with an average improvement of 64%. That's a huge reduction in your overall risk of some type of a cyber event that results from a phishing email. It is the best investment you can make in terms of upping your security profile for your company. So, our offer to help after all of this, now that you know what the risks are you confident that your home computer network and your home computers are secure? Are you confident that all of your employees working remotely have secure home networks and can recognize phishing emails and other online scams? If the answer is no, are you confident that your business network and systems are secure? Keep in mind, folks, we're now starting to move back into our offices and back onto our business networks. What are we bringing with us? It's not unlike the situation we have with the biological viruses. You may be having people come in with devices that have been infected while they've been working remotely, and you won't know it until it's too late. So what we are saying is give us a call and allow us to have a conversation with you about a strategy that will help you improve your company's or your organization's security capabilities. There are a lot of things that we can do to assist with that. We can help you supplement your existing IT security resources, those experts that I talked about. Instead of a general practitioner, get somebody in that has the background, the training, the specialization to deal with whatever issues you may or may not have, and to confirm whether or not you have those issues. We can help train your people. We can do phishing exercises and other things. We can find your blind spots by doing a risk assessment and help you know what you may not know right now about where your weaknesses are. And we can help you prepare for the unexpected. 5 years ago, ransomware was a blip on the radar screen. Nowadays, it is a major, significant problem for organizations across the country. There are billions of dollars being sucked away from our economy as a result of ransomware. So I am frustrated by the fact that folks are not really hearing the message and taking action to correct the situation or improve their chances of avoiding one of these events. And last but not least, we can help you sleep better as a result of the other items that we can assist with. So with that, let's summarize. A time of rapid change. We had COVID first. Now we've got mass protests and some rioting in isolated places. We've got the cyber threat vector increasing exponentially on a daily basis. We've got communication needs across the organization. Our people need to know what's going on and know how to deal with it. We need to train folks to be the human firewall for your organization. Again, technology can only do so much. People, process, and technology. So we need to utilize the available technology that we've got to stay in close contact. And again, that's text messaging, that's instant messaging, that's email, that's all sorts of other channels. So that's all I've got today. This is my contact information here. Please, please, please reach out. I know that we can help you deal with the current challenges. We can help you deal with the current risks, and we can reduce your risk of having a cyber event at some point. Are there any questions at this point? I haven't seen
There are no questions in the question box at this time.
Okay. Well, again, I really appreciate everyone being on the call. I hope that the information I've conveyed hasn't scared you too much that you are afraid to take action. As I said, we are specialists. We have the tools, we have the experience, and I know that we can help you reduce your overall risk for your organization. So thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing from you all.
Thank you, David. And thank you to everybody that's on the call today. I just want to let you know that you will be receiving an email with a link to this presentation, a recording of the presentation, as well as the materials. If you need any more additional information, please remember to visit our website at detroitchamber.com/COVID-19 for upcoming webinars and teletown halls that can help you as you either are in the process of restarting your business or working remotely or transitioning through this time. Again, thank you to UHY and to David for your time today. I really do appreciate it. Have a great day, everyone.